video I have planned for today is going to be pretty short. I might get this in here. This is a seedling. It was given to me by my friend Eddie, a former student, but I guess he's a friend now. It's been a long time since he was a student. But he wasn't sure what it was, said he thought it was an oak. I do believe he's correct. According to my Plant Snap app, it's a holly oak. If anybody out there has any better ideas, I'd like to know. The leaves do look a little bit like the young leaves I've seen on a laurel oak. That didn't even come up on a suggestion on my app. He gave it to me in July. It was basically like the seed leaves. These are the seed leaves here, and then there was like one leaf other than that. Kind of sat there and did nothing for a long time, and then all of a sudden it got this height to it. And I've been thinking, like, you know, I see that people take these younger seedlings and get a little movement in them when they're really young. And I was thinking of doing that in the spring, but I know I'm going to have to repot it. It's had some roots coming out of the bottom. I actually pulled the weeds out of it today, which is actually just what made me think of it, because once I pulled the weeds out, almost all the substrate kind of came out with. What I'm going to do now is just kind of take this, I have this old used piece of wire here, and I'm just going to kind of get it in here and try to just at least get one bend out of it or something. Leave it there, because, you know, I'll be repotting this in like 2 months, and just try to get one, you know, maybe a C out of it. I won't get an S or anything like that. I mean, everybody says they hate the S's, but I mean, you do that when they're really young, and then as they kind of grow, you work with it. I'm just going to try and see what I can do here. And then, because when I go to repot it, you won't be able to get any movement out of it then, because it'll just be freshly repotted, and there's nothing to really anchor it to. I said I'll just do it now, get a little bend to it. Be quite honest with you, I've heard of a holly oak. Never really known anybody to really have one in their yard or anything like that. But just today I found out that it's an actual Zone 10 oak, which, like I said, I've heard of it, but I've never really known it to be a tropical or anything like that. Tropical oak, like a, you know, live oak or the laurel oak. Laurel oaks aren't really tropical. They stay kind of evergreen down here. I guess a little north of here they lose their leaves. But anyhow, I'm just going to try to, seem brittle already. So I'll keep a close eye on that. Keep watering it for the rest of the winter here. You know, we are 2 days away from the beginning of winter here in Florida, which there really isn't much winter. I'll let it go like that through like mid-February or so. And then as soon as I notice that it starts really pushing out new growth, I'll take that off, repot it, and hopefully it retains some of that and isn't just that straight up stick. All right, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. We've got another ficus, but at least it's not another ficus microcarpa. I have been working a lot on my ficus microcarpa just simply because I have plenty of them, and I know that I can work them pretty hard this time of the year. We're a couple days away from the first day of winter here in Florida, and this was just a cutting that I've taken, so, you know, nothing ventured, nothing gained. This was a cutting over a rock from a couple years ago. The mother tree that I got it from was sold to me as a ficus tetitensis or something like that, maybe petersi. And then some of the forums that I belong to, they're all very, very quick to tell you what a tree is not, and they're all telling me that it is not a tetitensis or whatever. And I'm like 90% sure it might be the petersi, but again, I'm not sure about that either, but I do know it's a ficus. It's definitely got enough of the characteristics to be a ficus. That's the front side. Still not entirely sure I'm going to leave it on the rock, but that is the back side. Today I'm gonna clean up the rock a little. I'm gonna try to change the angle just a little bit of it. I'm gonna try to show this root off just a little bit more and get these roots kind of into the substrate just a little bit better. And I'm gonna prune and wire it. Back in June was when I had this cutting shoved into a white plastic pot, and you couldn't see the rock, and you know, this was all just buried. And I took that out in June, and then repotted it, put it in this pot here. And I don't really know what I was thinking there in June. I didn't cut it back as far as I should have. I mean, it was the height of the growing season, I think I was just more or less worried about leaving a bunch of leaves so that it would grow more roots. And it started growing really, really leggy. So back in October, I actually took all the wire off and cut it way back. And let's hop in the time machine. I repotted it, kind of, I had this in a nursery pot with the rock, everything all buried up to here. Exposed the roots, wired it. Perhaps, maybe I did something, or too much all at once. I'm not concerned about it dying, but it's not anywhere near the vigor and the health it would need to be to really style anything nice here. And so I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and take the wire off and probably just give it a hard prune and hope it recovers by next spring. Because it's gotten way too leggy. It got almost no back budding in there. I have heard, I don't know if you can kind of see here where these two pieces I kind of wired down pretty low. I have heard that some species of ficus, if you go below the crown, they'll actually start dying back a little bit. And this, has a little dieback. Could have been from repotting all at once too. I believe it's been since early July that I repotted it. Oh, actually, I just looked. This is actually in mid-June that I repotted this thing and wired it and everything. Really should have a lot more growth than what it's got compared to the other trees out there just like it. So, like I said, I'll just take this wire off, give it a hard prune, and put it back out there. A lot of people that do a root over rock, they kind of do a thing where they can take and expose the root, or expose the rock, like in stages, where I've been kind of burying the whole thing, and then like I'll kind of partially expose it the first time I repot it, and then a little more the next time. This time I got a little brave. I think it came from how I found a lot of ficus microcarpa react from that, but this is not a microcarpa, and I just don't think it readily bounced back as quickly as a microcarpa would have. So I do think in the long run, I think it'll live and be fine, but I think it's just best right now, it getting any more leggy than it is. I might go back further than this, but I'd like to save a little ramification if I could. So I'm going to go back to those two pieces there. And take that whole thing back. This whole piece here is pretty much dying. That piece too. That got super leggy on me. And something like that. And then boom, here we are back. If I would have cut that back like I did just then in October, I think it'd be a lot further along now. But it has regained itself. And I'm going to start off by just cleaning this rock up a little bit more than it is. I'm just really going to take a wire brush, try to rough it up a little bit. And then I have just a toothbrush and some water. Some of this stuff, I kind of hope when I expose the rock, that Mother Nature will just kind of, as it rains and the wind blows and everything, kind of take care of some of that algae and whatnot, but it just hasn't. I'd like to be able to see it a little bit better, and again, that might even help me just a little bit more what I'm looking at when I go to try to move the angle a little bit at the end here. Inside looks a little bit better. Got this one dried up root here. Take that out. Now this side I'm only going to get the top because I do want to try to tilt the rock up just a little bit, and that's going to wind up burying that side a little more. Alright, and so now I'm going to prune it and wire it. And sorry guys, I didn't even realize before I was in here with the blinds drawn and the lights turned off. It was dark when I started that video. Hopefully you guys can see a little bit of a difference in the rock there. Cleaned it up just a bit. I do see I need to hit right there a little bit better. But maybe when I change the angle that'll help some. So when I had originally repotted it in June and I left all that crazy branching, the idea was I thought it would explode with growth, and then I could come back, you know, around now probably and choose some. And I think the repotting just kind of weakened it. And that's why I kind of cut back to these 3 branches. They're all coming out of the same spot. I was sitting there trying to decide if I should keep all 3, and I decided I really shouldn't. I'm pretty sure since this is the front, I'll go ahead and take that out. And because this will now be the leader, and it'll have this big main branch here, I think that'll heal up on its own there. Over time, I may have to hit it with the knob cutters a little as things go, but I think it'll be fine. And then I am going to wire it with my heavier wire here, bring that down. That'll be the first branch. All right, and so just try to get this guy down. Just kind of went down, forward, or down back, and then just forward a little bit. Got a little curve to it there. And then this, so I've got this huge scar here. This chop where I made this, that was just before I repotted it. That's going to be a really interesting cutting. I can't wait to show you guys what that's going to look like in February or March or so. But since that has a big scar there, I'd like to lead this over this way a little bit, just so that it can kind of grow that way and help heal that scar up. And then I'm just going to kind of take it back the way it was. And that should work something about like that. Maybe a little more that way first. And I think that'll mature like that all right. This branch is coming off the side. This one's coming off the side. That one is too. They should all reach for the sun soon enough. This one is coming straight up, so I'm going to take that one out. And I think for now, all these up here will be keepers. I'll just take off some of these bigger leaves. And then, you know, since I did just do that repotting in June, if you go back and watch that original video that I'll put in the description, right about here should be where I cut this root off. To just kind of see if I can just tilt it up just a bit. sometimes when I initially do these things, the weight of the rock has a lot to do with how it kind of lands in there. But then once they start getting some roots and you go to move them around, they take to the movement a little bit more than they do right at first. And right there is where that cut is, so I can't really, probably all I'm going to get out of it for today. Alright, and since I turned that up just a bit, showed more of that rock. You can see now the rock doesn't really have a good a hold in there as it did either. But just kind of cleaned some of that up. I was hoping as I turned that up that would kind of go down in there a little bit more, and it didn't. Part of the problem with trying to adjust things after they're in like that, when I originally did it, I thought about covering that up with some sphagnum moss or something, but down here with as much humidity as we have and everything, that could create some more algae issues. I've got this root here and the main root. You can see there it doesn't really have that good of a hold on the rock. But again, jury's still out on whether it'll just stay on the rock or not. I'll let it gather up some more strength and some more leaves. Should make more root. And if it doesn't get any better of a hold of it, I may consider taking it off. I've had one that I've taken off that actually turned out to have a much better Navari on it because of the root spread that having it on the root did. So but overall, not bad for a cutting. It's just a couple years old at the most.